So the title of this inquiry is Mind, Identity and Ego. And I want to go very slow, very precise into the maximum depth as I'm able to perceive it. And I have many checkpoints where I ask you whether you are still seeing it or whether you are somewhere, because my intention is to really use the space that you have a maximum possibility of getting, so that you can carry this awareness then into the outer circles. The basic equipment of a human being is the body and the brain. That's by evolution the basic equipment. That's simple. The basic purpose of the body and the brain from an evolution perspective is survival. So we are living in a biochemical spacesuit that is equipped with a brain, but it's a very evolved brain compared to all the other life forms we know on planet Earth. The brain of a human being is capable to move so complex and to have a specific ability of identification, to which I come in full depth in a moment, that the motion of the brain is called the mind. Yeah? So the mind is the human brain in motion. Now, the purpose of the mind, the purpose of the human brain in motion, with all its potential, from an evolutionary point of view, is simply to give this species, this spacesuit, the ability to survive in far better ways compared to the animal world, and also to help evolution creating a materialistic reality of a being that is higher developed than what currently is on Earth. That makes sense and it's confirmed by many of the other sources. What makes the human mind so special is that it can identify with abstractions. The mind of a hamster, the mind of a cat, the mind of a dog, every developed species has a brain, and this brain is identifying with the body. Now, then the R system switches on and they are surviving, they act in the service of their body surviving. Or, a little bit more evolved, the offspring, defending the little ones. But that's pretty much where it stops for the animals. The human brain can identify with abstractions. The human brain is able to identify with basically anything. That makes it unique. And what it means is, for example, that the mind of a businessman can identify with the company. What then happens is when the mind is in service, and the purpose of the mind is always that it makes the host survive. But if the host, which is you, which is us, is identified with the company, then the mind, not having its own intelligence, it's a device with one purpose: help the host survive. Host identified with business means mind helps host to survive the business. Sacrificing the body is not a problem then. Sacrificing the family is not a problem. How the mind, the brain, is making the host act in ways that supports the business to survive is it produces thoughts and emotions that motivate actions for the company, irrespective if the body in the process is so unhealthy that it dies. So the mind itself has no intelligence that assesses what is more important. It doesn't know that the body is important. It only is a function to make sure supporting the survival of what the host is, and when the host is my company as a identification, like the mother is the child, or a politician is probably identified with an idea, then everything what the mind produces as thoughts and as feelings, drives, goes to the survival of the idea, not to love or anything else. The intellect of a human being is capable to have higher values and all kinds of things. Politicians can speak of the most marvelous values, but what drives their action is guaranteed what their mind is identified with. That's what is then on the bottom line. That's why in the Bible it says, by the fruits you shall recognize them, because facts don't lie. It's always the same game. So this identification capability is marvelous. And until here, it's not a problem. The problem starts when you make an identification personal. Now, what does that mean? There's a difference between identification and attachment. You can be identified with something but not attached. Identification itself is giving the human being the possibility to self-reflect. No other animal is aware of its own being as we human beings are. They are not able to self-reflect. Now, that's also not a problem. The moment the identification becomes personal, then it becomes a part of what psychologists call the ego. Now, how is the ego born in the first place? We always use the example that a baby, and you can verify it simply by the presence of a baby and looking into the eyes, a baby is not carrying an ego. It carries a brain that has impulses and reflexes that serve for the survival. The ego is born when the first time the caretakers, or it could be anybody, but typically it's the caretakers, are saying to the little one, you are adorable, you are so sweet. Anything, or you are so bad. The first time the message comes in, you are, that is the first identification. That is personal. From there on, the you are is strengthened by the repetition of parents saying you are. If they would say you have the anything you have, but the you are is them defying the I am for you. And that is the beginning of what's called ego. The moment then this I am, as in I am sweet, I am bad, I am, and then it evolves, I'm not good enough, etc. You know that from different inquiries. So it grows then. All of that becomes within the mind's capability to identify, which gives us great advantage. Within that, the ego is a part of identity where you made the identification personal. You are identified to many things. Not everything is personal. Means not everything is attachment. You only start acting in ways serving the ego when your identification to whatever it is, to your bank account, to your car, to your title, to people in your life, when that is becoming personal. And it's even not your choice. When it's personal, your mind takes it personal as in you. And the mind's job by evolution is to help you survive. That you is now defined as what you are identified with when it's personal. The Buddhists teach consistently non-attachment. They don't teach non-identification. Every guru, every master, every teacher still has identification. They know that's their body. If they wouldn't know that, it would be ridiculous. It is the attachment that is the spiritual high goal to manage getting rid of making identifications personal. Then your mind is not any longer producing thoughts and feelings and drives for you to act in the self-interest of the upholding and the maintaining of what is the ego. And because of this process that happened in you, in you, in you, in me, in everybody, the self-interest in people is intrinsic, embedded, but it's not that what allows a conscious choice, because survival is such a strong energy that we are under its doctrine until you start seeing what's going on. I come to that in a moment. So first see if you can, with your own awareness, differentiate between identification and attachment, and between personal identification and impersonal identification. So, in the past, when we taught identity, which I already replaced more and more by the term ego, we had it all in one basket. But that creates a lid of development. That's why we need to make this clear distinction so that we know what we're up against, what's in the way. So identification, yes, and the choices, whether you are continuing to allow the presence of personal identifications, attachments, or if you experience that these personal attachments became an invisible prison, which makes your attention, your awareness, magnetically always going to that what needs survival. That is, immediately when an idea became personal to you, it became part of your ego. Your mind will make sure that your attention immediately goes there, gets active, entangled in surviving this idea, surviving this part. And that is the reason why you can't in meditation just experience nothingness, because your attention by default is always hijacked. Your awareness is hijacked. And you experience it not being able to get out of your head, not being able to get out of the invisible prison. Sometimes you manage maybe just to get tranquil, to get more relaxed in there. Then the walls are not so hard. But time and again, you find yourself being in the box and not being able to get out of it, no matter how much ayahuasca you took, no matter how many meditation hours you can count on, and all the practices. They give you postcards. They get you more space, but it collapses again. And I was looking at what is the reason why my awareness in a moment of sitting still doing nothing gets hijacked and moves to thoughts and feelings. And looking at that, what I saw was that the awareness gets always hijacked to things that I still carry as a personal identification. So one thing is unclear. If you want to experience anything outside of this invisible prison, then you would need to take away the possibility that your awareness gets hijacked so that it can just be free. Because when awareness gets hijacked, means it focuses on one thing, then all the possibility of awareness to be in infinite space is reduced to focus on that one thing. That one thing then, what you focus on is in contrast to everything what is not the one thing, that is separation, that's a wall. Survival is by default the name of the game. By default. So we are living in a mechanism that has installed survival. Nothing wrong with it. Better survival with a mind that is able to identify with abstractions, that allows me to link my identification to something other than just my body, is giving a human being incredible opportunities. What our problem is, and that's why we are not experiencing infinity, eternity, a perpetual connection to the whole, is because our awareness isn't free to just be. It's always drawn towards something we are identified with as a person. I am. Yeah? The I am makes in any identification personal. We don't say, I am my car. We don't say that in language, but we do often mean it. This is my car. That you are responsible for that car by identification, you need to pay insurance, that's no problem. But when you make it my car and it becomes part of your ego, then your awareness is not free. Because your awareness should go when you have an accident in caring, it's your car, it's your accident, it's your responsibility, your awareness needs to deal with all of that. But when you sit at home and you are afraid your car is getting a scratch from the neighbor, or if you have pleasure because the people admire you so much about the car, then this is all part of the ego. That's when people sit at home and their awareness goes to having read the next brochure of the car. Yeah, and then they dream about, how the neighbors will look at them when they drive with that car. And, so you can literally see the effect that attachment has when it's personal, that it always binds your awareness. And when your awareness is not free to expand and be infinite, then you don't experience the divine. And
it's like this fake you.
Yeah. And in particular substances, for ours, that personalized identification is dissolved. That means you're not experiencing any longer the presence of the ego, therefore your awareness is just expanding, then everything becomes greener than it is. You still know that you are in your body because the impersonal identification continues, and it should. But the personal identification is gone. And the awareness, and then people share the divine experiences. Then you travel into other worlds, or you hang from the tree for half an hour, or you do crazy things, because you are free now. And that's what we all are looking for when we go on a spiritual path. If you are in an impersonal presence, then very well often what can happen is that in the interaction with someone, you become an energy that is not yours, but it serves in the interaction with the other a higher purpose. But it's not something you can foresee. Yeah. So often I experience when I'm training with people, then suddenly I feel I become their father. Yeah? And so their projection on unresolved authority issues creates in me the experience that they make me their father now. If I have anything personal sitting on that, I'm incapable of dealing with it in an enlightenment or in a conscious way. If it's truly impersonal, then I can take that and can choose now how to use that in order to whatever my purpose is in the interaction with that person. Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Even if you don't take anything personal, it doesn't mean like you just like...
You vegetable, no. It could mean that, that what is called in the scriptures an avatar, who literally has no engagement with the world whatsoever. Yeah? But that is not something you have as a goal when you are on the path. You know? The only goal, what one really has on the spiritual path at the end of the day, is you arrive at a point where you're starting to recognize that the only prison you live in is invisible, inside here. The only thing what separates you from your awareness, just being free. It's an invisible prison, and we can imagine that like this. So that box, let's say it's a cube, right? It should be a cube of glass. Yeah? Cube of glass. And then, for the sake of illustration, let's say there are 5 cubes, like a matryoshka Russian puppet, 5 cubes in like this. And then somewhere there in the middle, that's your point of awareness. That's what you call you. Now this awareness is caged. In essence, this awareness is just, if you take the awareness out, it just is. It becomes everything. This is the experience when people say, I am everything. That means their awareness was taken outside the box. Because then it doesn't have any borders, any limitation, any dimension. It just is. It's pure presence. But, as I shared with you, any personal identification, any attachment hijacks awareness and focus awareness on the survival of that particular idea, belief, habit, whatever you are identified with. That's why it remains in here. And the glass walls here, they are everything what you heard of. So first of all, of course, attachments. Yeah? Then fear. Then we have story. We have being honored. We have golden cows. We have assumptions.
Everything below the lower part of the left power.
And everything on the lower letter, exactly, everything. LOP minus.
And also thoughts then, huh?
No. No, thoughts can be perfectly impersonal. Yeah. Imagine your awareness is free. Imagine you have reached that state when you are attending to a task. When Sadhguru gives a talk, He has thoughts, of course. Yeah? But that thoughts are not about how he performs so that they like him. Yeah? Or a self-monitoring ego looking at, do I come across or not, and what will they think, and will I be booked again, and whatever is going on up here. But let's stay here for a while. So, now the practice, what you can consider the summit, is when you move deliberately with your awareness towards the walls. And that is each moment a choice, because life is happening. You can breathe, just imagine, and life is happening. Something happens that is causing you going into a challenge with regard to what you are attached to. The mind produces resistance. That's the first sign. When there's resistance, you have two choices. Either you allow to act on survival, fight, flight, freeze, or you say, great, next opportunity. To now see if I can follow where the resistance comes from and let go of that attachment completely. The moment you do that, it equals breaking a glass wall. If you let go of an attachment, then one glass wall is left, it's gone. The cube may have, 5, 6, 7, and everywhere is something. The process of life takes care by itself. It confronts you all the time with stuff. And you can either go into survival of what you are identified with as an attachment, or you go into taking it as an opportunity to liberate yourself by letting go of it. Trying to make compromises, managing negotiations are all survival strategies. The only question with regard to every single choice you're going to make in your life from a spiritual perspective is, are you going to make the choice to liberate yourself, or are you going to make the choice to maintain the status quo of your ego? That's the bottom line. No, many hands. Until.
And is it then needed to make that choice in that specific moment?
In that, yes,
in that specific moment.
Exactly, in that specific moment. Mm-hmm. And when you make the choice to let go, then you are confronted with learning to let go, so that it's real, not just a fake thing. But you know exactly when life is happening and next time this attachment gets hit, if it comes into your awareness in the first place, that means it doesn't come into your awareness gets sucked into that spot of your ego. That's what's happening. Then you know, no, you're not done.
I'm just reflecting on examples in my own life. So, for example, when my kids are triggering me, or something gets, and then I'm attached to them being in a certain way or something, then the moment I see that, that's the best moment to act upon that, right?
Exactly.
Not later to ponder on it and think, okay, that would be good to let go. Or what is there? Does it matter?
Of course, from a pure effectiveness point of view, the sooner you can act on that and get clear in the choice, you have to make a choice. There's no escape. Mm-hmm. As Prince E.A. says, the truth can be denied but not avoided. So you can go into denial and deal with it later, okay, but it cannot be avoided. And if you don't choose, then life will just hit on you until you are so done with suffering that it's clear Now you surrender because you can't bear the pain anymore. But the process is always exactly the same. We either are continuing to manipulate life so it matches our blueprint of the ego, how things should be, how business should be, how children should be, how parents should be, how you should be, how everything should be. That makes us struggle, fight, manipulate in the most part. Or to say, what am I doing? Wait a minute. Yeah. What is it I'm going to use my life for? That's a fundamental question. Once you start seeing this with your own awareness of examination, what's really going on, then it's not difficult anymore. Because when you see that in yourself, by observation, what happens to your awareness when it gets hijacked and gets contracted into a spot, when the wave of awareness becomes a particle, it's because of survival engagement of whatever your ego is identified with. Only that. Any other time your awareness gets contracted into a focus is when you make a conscious choice to say, I'm going to work on this now. Yeah? Then your awareness is this incredible flexible energy that responds to where you put your attention on. But what you are attached to, your mind puts the attention on automatically without asking you. That's the content of all your thoughts that you are having in your mind. That's when we ask people, okay, for 60 seconds, have no thought. You know? Or you sit down and say, meditate now for 20 minutes. All the thoughts you're having are thoughts that your attention goes to, and because they are part of your ego, which is a label for all the identifications that you personalized. That's the definition of the ego. Yeah, there's nothing good, nothing bad. It's simply what it is. But it means you live, as you know by now, a life where your awareness is caged in an invisible prison circling between all the things you are attached to. And that's the box. That's what we are representing with the room. Inside of that box, another survival strategy is maybe the bar stool over there. Yeah? Then I do this training or do that strategy, and then I go over there. But it has no impact on liberating your awareness. Spiritual liberation is liberating your awareness. And awareness is, in its nature, a free energy. It only gets contracted into the spot of what your mind is regarding as survival. And when you say, I am my child, I am my laptop, I am my thing, these I ams, the mind is as an impersonal device taking care of or engaging for that survival. There's no mind to blame, it's a mechanism. It does a great job. This is it. And it hits people who have all the best circumstances, so this process is, from a spiritual perspective, actually a gift, because it says, look, that's where you are. Now find a way out. And when you sit and you experience when your awareness, which is consciousness, which is who you are, when that is circling free, and you experience that there is no sense of limit. It's not a fantasy, it's an experience. There's no time. And you may remember that's how you often felt like a child. There were moments where you just were. And once you get back to that Why would you ever want anything else? No, imagine a moment or a day without this being you that you are familiar with. But you don't need to jump to the mountaintop. It's a walk. The most important thing is to be clear that you do have a choice. That's the most important thing. What are you going to do the next time when your attachment gets challenged? What's it going to be? Are you going to go into making life fit so you don't feel the pain of the attachment being challenged? Or are you going into the root of attachment and say, I let you go?